The next major change that we're going to be making to our web application is we're going to be basically installing something called Bootstrap, which is a front-end framework to make your application look really good really quickly. Bootstrap was written by people at Twitter, and it's used for basically not having to have a designer and being able to pull in cool things like buttons and different texts and different pop-ups and stuff like that so that your app can look awesome without having to spend a lot of time on it. But before we get there, I want to first make sure we commit our changes to Git and push them up to GitHub so that we have a record. Remember, we want to be able to go back to it later if we run into any problems. So let's do that really quickly. Now, you may not remember the steps that you have to take to save your changes to Git and push them up to GitHub, and that's why we're going to go through this again together. So the first thing is you always have to make sure you're inside your project folder. I'm going to cd into desktop, and I'm actually going to cd into my OMRails folder, move into both of them all at once, like this. Now I'm in here, and if I do git status, I see all the changes that I've made since the last time I saved. They're all red, which means none of them are staged. None of them are ready yet to be saved. We have some of the files which are modified. That's what this says. These files it knows about, and we have a last save of, but we made some changes. We also have some untracked files, which are new files that weren't around the last time that we made a save. So the first step of two steps that we always have to follow when we save changes to Git is git add, and I'm going to do -a. Now what this does is it basically adds all of these changes in here to get ready to save them, to say these are all files that we want to include inside of our save. Now if I do git status, I'll see all the files in there. They're green, and it says changes to be committed. If I wanted to, I could go and just do git add and list a specific file or a few files so that you only save a few of them at once, but that's not really functionality that we need to worry about. So all of these are ready to be saved, and now I'm going to do a git commit, and that's the second step. The statuses we're just kind of checking in, but those aren't really necessary. You don't have to do git status, but you do git commit, and you pass in a message. Always have to pass in a message to git commit. If you forget to do that, you might get this like pop-up thing that asks you to type in a message in there, and that can get kind of annoying to deal with. So it's better to pass it in this way, the way that I'm doing. And I'll call it, what did we do? We added a home page and about page. I'm trying to be descriptive here. There we go. And our changes are saved now. If I do git status, you'll see it actually says nothing to commit, working directory clean. It also says your branch is ahead of origin master by 1 commit. What that actually means is that we are ahead of our GitHub page because we made a commit that's not on GitHub. If you go to GitHub and you log in and you actually check out your page, I have to switch to the 1-month account to see it, and my repository is OMRails, I don't see my changes yet, and that's because they're only on my computer here. I need to push them up to GitHub. There's always a difference between the two, remember that. So anytime you make a save on your computer, you have to push the changes up to GitHub if you want to see the changes. So I can do this with a simple git push command. It'll ask me for my username and password. And remember, the password, you won't see it type in anything. You just have to type it and hit enter. And now if I refresh this, I actually see the commit message, added a homepage and about page next to the folders that were changed. I see that it was updated a minute ago, and my changes are live on here. Now, what sometimes happens, just as a bit of a tip, is that you make some changes and for some reason they get separate from what you have up here in a way where if you try to push it, you'll get an error. It says that you have some changes on GitHub that you don't have on your local computer, and it's not able to merge the two. For whatever reason, sometimes this happens. And in that case, you might have to do a force push, which is basically saying, I know that there's stuff up on GitHub that I don't have locally, but it's okay. I want to force all my changes live. You usually don't want to do this when you're working with a team of people because you can override changes that they made, but because we're just working solo right now, it's okay. If you look up git force push, you'll find the command for how to do that. How do you properly force a git push? So it actually it looks like this: git push, origin master, this minus minus, and force. So if you have a problem where your GitHub page is different, so it's not letting you push, you can force the push with this, and then it'll override anything up here with what you have on your local computer. So that's it, and now you should have all of your code updated on GitHub.